Hello, everyone, and welcome to Else Nutrition's live corporate webinar. This is David Vidala from RBMG. Else Nutrition is listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol BABY and on the OTCQX under the symbol BABYF. Joining us today is the company's co-founder, CEO, and director, Hamutal Yitzhak, and Else Nutrition's lead director, Silky Puar, who will be providing an update on current operations, recent achievements, and upcoming milestones. At the end of the presentation, we will open it up for questions for management to address. If you are interested in asking a question and are logged into the Zoom app or web platform, you can submit your questions to us directly in the Q&A module. Please note, this presentation is being recorded today, Thursday, October 6th, 2022, and will soon be made available on the company's website at elsenutrition.com. Today's call may contain forward-looking statements that are subject to risks and uncertainties that may cause actual results, performance, or developments to differ materially from those contained in the statements and are not guarantees of future performance of the company. No assurance can be given that any of the events anticipated by the forward-looking statements will occur, or if they do occur, what benefits the company will obtain from them. Also, some risks and uncertainties may be out of the control of the company. Else Nutrition has a full disclaimer on page 2 of their presentation. Lastly, RBMG is not a registered investment advisor or broker-dealer. For more information, please visit rbmilestone.com. And now I'll hand it off to Hamutal and Silky. The stage is yours.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I'm Hamutal Yitzhak. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Else Nutrition. And Else Nutrition is a company that leads the infant formula market, plant-based clean nutrition revolution. We're the world's first whole plant-based dairy and soy-free infant formula. So in a nutshell, our portfolio of nutritional products for babies, cereals and toddlers and nutritional drinks and kids nutritional drinks are currently generating revenues in North America. And we are advancing towards an FDA approval on our infant formula from 0 to 12 months. This is anticipated within 18 to 24 months. Our clinical studies that supports that are anticipated to end by the end of 2023. Our global expansion, starting this year, we had the strong distribution and manufacturing partners to support this expansion. We are expanding our market share in the toddler and kids markets, and while soon we're entering the infant formula market through the FDA approval. And we are creating the third alternative to dairy and soy-based formulas across the globe, targeting an untapped market. That's the most important thing we're doing. That's the holy grail of that company. And that shouldn't be forgotten in the realm of our current revenues, which are generated from peripheral products, which are the toddler, the cereal, the kids' nutritional drinks. The most important thing for us is getting this permit and passing the clinical studies and the FDA permit successfully. And that's where we're aiming at. The total value of the company will be completely different once we get to that point. What we are doing is kind of making a proof of concept to the holy grail. We're selling our peripheral products, we're generating revenues which are growing all the time, but the holy grail is still yet to come. So we have strong industry and scientific expertise on the path to becoming a global scientific leader in that space of plant-based infant formula market. We've got sustainable ingredients. We're actually expected to have over 65% less carbon footprint versus the global dairy brands. And that's quite a significant difference that would make a difference on our planet. We're well capitalized. We have a 12 months cash runway and no debt. What is the challenge in the infant nutrition space? You must know that all infant formulas must meet the human milk nutritional golden standard. And the golden standard is very tricky and very complicated to I say, mimic, because there are very specific ratios between its macro and micronutrients, and they have to be very exact and cannot deviate from the standards. Also, human milk is a whole food, and it is digested in its whole form by the baby. That's a challenge that our current industry has not managed to achieve. So let me tell you what is going on currently in our space. The current core ingredients of our industry are ultra processed and also very problematic from many aspects. Let's start with the dairy. The dairy is a strong allergen. It has a lot of concerns for consumers with regards to all the nasties like antibiotics and hormones and pesticides, the animal welfare thing, and the major environmental issues. And also regarding the wholesomeness of that ingredient or that food, it cannot stay in its whole form because it must use highly processed derivatives of the dairy in order to mimic the human milk composition. It cannot stay in its whole form. Let's speak about the soy. The soy is actually almost non-existing because it's been decreased or declining from 30% of the market to about 5% over the last 20 years because of the main concern, which is the phytoestrogens. The phytoestrogens are a debate between our scientists, whether it is risky or it's safe. When there's a doubt, there's no doubt for babies. So on top of that, we've got a strong allergen as well. We got a controversial product that's declining. We got a GMO concern. Most of the soy on our planet is genetically modified. And we have a chemical extraction of the protein. Again, it cannot stay in its whole form. The protein must be chemically isolated and processed in order to match the human milk composition and structure. So here is ELSE. ELSE is actually created the first dairy and soy-free product that actually meets the standards in terms of the composition and mimics the benefits of the human milk. And this is going to be increasing market share as a preferred solution on the other ones. We are advancing towards a hypoallergenic stamp through our clinical study that is going to be executed in the next year. This is a hypoallergenic clinical study, regardless of the FDA permit. So that would actually give us a stamp to officially say that we can cater those kids or babies who are allergic to either soy or dairy. We already know that it's non-officially, this is already working for them. Our core ingredients have 65% less lower carbon footprint. We are free of all the nasties, and we are with zero chemical processing. We're only based on whole food ingredients versus the entire industry, whatever, even if it is an organic product, it doesn't matter. They all have to really process it very, very strongly in order to match the human milk composition. In our case, it's not like that. So let's look at the trends in our market as well as on the plant-based food market. We are we're playing in the intersection of those two markets. Our market, the infant formula market, is valued at about $80 billion, or has been valued in 2020, and the forecasts are that it will be growing up to 132 billion, with a CAGR of almost 9% by 2026. The growth in that market is supported by consumers looking for cleaner and more sustainable alternatives. These are the segments in this market that are growing, like the organic dairy products. And we also can notice that 40% of the infant milk formula in the United States is actually a category called specialty cow's milk formula, which is catering to the allergic and intolerant babies. That's a huge segment. And this is where we can replace all those products which are even more processed than the standard ones and just get into their shoes, creating a much healthier and wholesome alternative to that segment specifically. Not to speak about the vegans, the flexitarians, and all the other families that are seeking to avoid the usage of those two ingredients. Global plant-based food market is valued currently at about 30 billion and is expected to grow at about 18% CAGR to $160 billion by 2030. And the growth is supported by adoption of alternative food options by all the stakeholders and health and sustainability benefits. Else is creating a sustainable plant-based alternative infant formula, which is an untapped market. I want to show you our how we reached that figure of 65% less carbon footprint. So you can see that our core ingredients, the main sources of our protein and fat, which are the almonds and the buckwheat, are generating 3.65 kilograms per of CO2 per kilogram of product. And on our peers, they do 10 kilograms. So the formulas may vary. I mean, the toddlers, the infant, the kids, the ratios between those ingredients can vary. But so we took an average of 50% from each one of them, and our almond and buckwheat, and whey protein and skimmed milk powder, which are the core ingredients for protein in the dairy products. And you can see that we are 65% lower in the carbon footprint. All the rest of the parameters or the factors that calculate the total carbon footprint are more or less the same, because we use the same technology in terms of the manufacturing, but the ingredients make the difference. These are the primary players, as you may all know, in our market. The market is very concentrated. I think 80% of the market is actually held by those 4 or 5 major players, and they have 2 options. All of them have the same portfolio. They may have different brands, different names. They play in different geographies, but they all have the same portfolio, which is based on dairy and a little bit on soy. And then comes Else, which is a plant-based formula, dairy and soy-free. And it's the only one once we get the FDA permit. That's the inflection point, the real inflection point. So we have the ultimate solution for all those populations that are seeking for such an alternative for such a long time. And we have globally patented that alternative as the first whole plant-based dairy and soy-free, also certified by all those certification stamps. Mostly we're proud of the Clean Label Project award certification, which actually certifies us as safe from heavy metals, non-detectable heavy metals. This is a very important part of our messaging and of our benefits, because we are very unique in that, especially on the cereal side. We are the only baby cereal in the United States to have that certification. That's why already after 6 months of selling that product, we're already a bestseller on Amazon in the category. So this is our current portfolio. On the top right side of this slide, you can see the current portfolio. We're also developing the liquid products now. And As I said, these are peripheral products, and the infant formula is pending the FDA approval. Our secret sauce in terms of our manufacturing and in terms of our complete formulation is actually providing twofold paradigm shifts. One is the novel protein source, and the other one is the ingredient processing method, which is a real revolution in our space. And we are also trying to validate why it's working better for kids, or why is it better for their digestion and their tolerance. We assume that it is because all these attributes exist there. It's all natural. All the core ingredients are kept in their natural composition and are not broken down. They are not chemically extracted. They are not altered, and that's why it makes a better digestion. It makes the better absorption, and the composition, of course, still meets the infant formula standards. We're not deviating from anything. We keep the same standards. And of course, we're free of all the nasties that all the rest of the guys do have, unless they're organic. And we are the most sustainable product, and we have the cleanest label in our industry. So we can definitely say that our disruptive, game-changing process goes beyond being organic, because we are the world's only formula that maintains the natural way of the digestion as intact proteins in their natural food matrix. I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but it's actually maintaining the foods whole, or the ingredients wholesome in their natural structure, just like the human milk is. So it is complicated to understand, but it's actually very simple. So what are we doing? We are transforming 3 real whole food plants in their natural form, but we're using only all natural and enzymatic or mechanical processes. And that creates a formula with a similar nutritional matrix as human breast milk. And we have no chemical, no acids, no solvents involved in our process. We have no protein isolations and hydrolyzations of the proteins, or any usage of derivative of those ingredients, but only the whole thing. And we don't alter the ingredients' chemical structure. That's why we can say we go beyond organic. These are our distribution partners. We engage with the 2 largest distributors in America, in North America, which cover together 60,000 doors. And the retailers in US and Canada are growing all the time, but we currently are listed on 3,000 doors in all those partners. Some of them are big box partners like CVS. Some of them are mid-sized big grocers in terms of the size of the stores. And some of them are small-sized natural food space retailers, which we started with. But in 2021, we only had 12,000 doors, and now we have 3,000. And by the end of the year, we anticipate to have 4,500. On the online side, we listed on the leading e-commerce platforms such as Amazon and Walmart and Kroger, and also on an international platform called iHerb. We're sold internationally on 180 countries already. In terms of manufacturing, I know many of you have asked about it. So we've got, you know that we have manufacturing partner in the US. Now we have in process another manufacturer in Europe that can cover a lot of our production needs with regards to our international expansion. We also own our proprietary processing facility for demineralized buckwheat production in Oregon. This is working and live. In terms of our expansion, we're in discussions with additional partners in USA and Canada for powder products. I'm talking about manufacturing partners, and in the USA for liquid product line. And we anticipate to start building our own capacity in North America over the next 24 months, of course, if the markets will enable that in terms of the terms and the conditions. With regards to our global expansion, so we have announced our penetration or launch in Canada in July 2022. The next will be China. And please stay tuned for the news because this is coming very, very soon. Australia will be there in the second quarter of 23. And Europe will be there very soon also. I think by the end of this year, we're going to start in UK. I don't want to commit to a certain date because this is still pending, but we've already signed an agreement with the distributor and we're going first also to Amazon. So UK will be there first, and during 23, we'll go into additional markets. Probably France will be the second. Of course, you know that all the founders, including myself, are veterans of this industry with so many years of experience of leading the largest brands in the world, such as Similac and the Nestle brands in Israel. And our scientific advisory board today consists of the leading researchers in the infant nutrition space who set the guidelines for infant nutrition, who sit in the societies that set those guidelines, and who are in the forefront of the scientific advancement, and they're really heavily involved in everything that we do in terms of the clinical pathway. This is true as for North America as well as for Europe. Let's look at our financials and our achievements in that respect. So you can see that the nice growth that we demonstrated along the years since we started in the second quarter of 2020. We started in the second quarter of 2019, but we only had revenues from the legacy products in Israel. And in the third quarter of 2020, we started selling in United States. So you can see that nice growth here, which also we've made 1.38 million Canadian in 2020. We've made 4.69 million in 2021, and in the first two quarters of 2022, we made 3.9 million, and in the second quarter, which was 2.3, which was a very nice achievement following the growth that was driven also by the shortage. And we had a 207% growth versus the first quarter of 2021. And we have, as of June 2022, 17 million US cash in hand. We have no debt still. And as we said, we have grown into 3,000 stores versus the last quarter of 2020 and 2021. And it's about 250% growth. Most of those stores that we listed recently will start selling or have started selling just now. About our capital structure, our market cap is around 85 million. The share price is currently 70 as of yesterday. And the issued and outstanding stock is 112 million, and fully diluted is 170 million. Management ownership is around 30%. And this is for recap. We are the world's first whole plant-based infant formula, soy and dairy-free. We are an award-winning product line. We have an award-winning product line with recent achievements on Amazon, as we already mentioned, for the first baby cereal bestseller in the category. We have a strong global patent composition base, which is the strongest protection. We also have some patents on the process of the demineralized buckwheat. We've built a strong distribution and manufacturing partnerships for global expansion starting this year. So We started in the third quarter in 2020 in the US. In this quarter, actually in the third quarter of 2022, we started in Canada. China is very soon to come. Please stay tuned for the news. We're going to launch in China in the world's largest infant formula market, which is about 45% of the total market. And in this quarter, also expect UK, and following will be other markets in the EU. And in the second quarter of 2023, we will launch in Australia. FDA approval pending for US expansion is anticipated within 18 to 24 months. But as I said, the clinical study is anticipated to end and be submitted in terms of its results by the end of 2023. And as we said, we're well capitalized. We have a 12 months cash runway and no debt. That should conclude the presentation. And now we'll go through Q&A, and we'll go on whatever the time frame will be enabling us. So let's move forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Hamutal. If you are interested in asking a question and are logged into the Zoom app or web platform, you can submit your question to us directly in the Q&A module. We have received several questions during the registration process. So, with that, we can begin the Q&A, the Q&A portion of the event right now. So are you ready? Okay, first question. Do you have any updates on the ready-to-drink products or next product lines?
So we are working on several ready-to-drink kids and adults products for 2023. We have completed the development of the kids products, and we are in the development of the adults product line. The main obstacle is shortage in manufacturing capacity in North America. Some of you may know that. We are in discussions with such producers and hope to come to positive agreements within a few months. We're also planning to release in 2023 additional powder products, variants of our current product for new markets such as the UK, France, Australia, and more, and some new entries on the adult powder as well.
Next question. Is Else scaling back on regular toddler formula due to cost compared to Omega?
No way. We see very strong demand for both products. In fact, the demand for organic toddler formula in Q2 was so high that we ran out of stock. We are working hard to rebuild our inventory in all products. So that's not the case. We're not cannibalizing on our toddler organic. No way.
Okay. Is there any update on the buckwheat manufacturing facility?
There was another question coming from another person regarding the same thing. According to the earlier interviews, funds were allocated towards a manufacturing facility in Oregon. What's the current status? Ongoing, complete, or abandoned? So as I already mentioned, of course, it's alive and it's working. There are a few activities that relate to this question. First, we continue to manufacture clean buckwheat in the Oregon facility for the infant formula. That was the main purpose of that facility. Second, we have added new suppliers of buckwheat in Europe and in the US, and a new partner that can manufacture the hydrolyzed buckwheat that we require, so we can reduce the dependency on what we had in the European manufacturing. Because this is also, we don't want to be dependent on a single partner. And last, we're considering to create our own capacity for the buckwheat in the United States with one of our manufacturing partners, and we hope to have plans in place by the end of the year. I'm talking about two processes that are done. One is the demineralized buckwheat, and one is the standard buckwheat that we do for the toddler and kids products, which is it's a kind of an enzymatic hydrolyzed buckwheat that we do in Germany and currently now in the States.
Gotcha. Thank you. Is there any insight, and I know you touched on this during the presentation, but any insight into the Else Nutrition product acceptance in China?
Yes, all I can say is just stay tuned for the news. It's coming very, very soon. It's a matter of days.
Okay,
And it's
understood.
about, we haven't launched yet. We have just engaged with Baozun, but the next news is coming about the launch.
Understood. Thanks. How is ELSE planning to manage finances in order to launch new products, complete clinical trials, distributing in China, Europe, and Australia in 2023?
So we're always looking for distribution partners in new markets. In Canada, all the retail distributors we work with, which is by far the main activity in Canada, is performed by a partner. We partner with a distribution group in the UK, as already mentioned, and we're discussing possible partnership in Europe. And in China, we partner with Baozun to establish our cross-border sales. We are financing much of the marketing activities for the above for now, but we've taken steps to limit the expenditure and to make it impactful as possible. We expect some of our partners to fund part of the marketing expenses in some of the markets, and in the new markets, maybe most of it, as we anticipate and we believe that as we have a full range of products, we can definitely go franchising, but we're not there yet. As the markets are difficult these days, we have taken measures to reduce our expenditure so we can run longer with less infusion of funds.
Thank you. Next question. Can you share some information on the revenue split in the second quarter between revenue coming from replenishment of stock versus the filling of the pipeline for the new outlets which were gained?
So in Q2, most of the revenue came from online, mainly from Amazon, and from replenishment of retail stock, as many of the new stores listed have not started yet to order. In Q3, we will see more cases of filling of the pipeline for the new outlets, which were gained. But as many of those are direct customers and they do not want to hold a lot of inventory, we already see replenishment orders as well.
Okay, thanks. This is a very appropriate question, but could you speak to manufacturing capacity and how ELSE will manage supply chain issues and distribution?
Sure. So you all know that in Q2 we had a very strong spike in sales, which depleted our inventory reserves, especially for organic toddler formula. In Q3, unforeseen or expected, our production partner has some issues that delayed our inventory replenishment efforts, which led to out-of-stock events. We're now starting to get out of this situation, and within 2 to 3 months, we plan to return to a normal situation. At the same time, we experienced huge success in our initial launch in Canada, and we had to rearrange manufacturing to supply with this early demand. It's about 5x's of what we expected. So that creates a problem in terms of the stock. Long term, we're working on the establishment of 2 additional manufacturing facilities. I already mentioned that. One is in Europe and the other is in the US. So we can better load balance our production and be less dependent on our current facility, on one facility. We've also grown our US logistics team and are deepening our EDI integration process to increase our order handling automation. Number of orders grow 10 times in the past 6 months. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, that you kind of touched on the next question, so I'm going to jump to the one after. But speaking about ELSE and the expected timing of the FDA approval for infant formula, and
Sure.
to further compete in the market and expand brand awareness to create long-term ELSE customers from birth. And then the other part of the question would be, how have the clinical studies positioned ELSE to study samples and formula from birth and leaving hospitals?
So as previously communicated, that the FDA and EU approval. By the way, we are on the pathway to get an EU approval at the same time, at the same clinical study. We kind of hooked both of them on the same study. So this is a multi-step process, and each step is contingent on the other. There are mainly 4 steps, and so far ELSE has actually completed successfully 2 of them, and demonstrating the suitability and the safety and bioavailability of the ingredients and the formula. This is already ticked. We announced that and published that in many scientific magazines, and it was already presented in scientific conferences, some of the most renowned ones in the world, such as ESPGHAN. So we got left the 3rd and the 4th steps, which are actually the same step. We have the clinical validation and the GRAS certification. GRAS is generally recognized as safe for the ingredients. So as far as ELSE is concerned, they're both combined, and it requires the successful growth of a healthy newborn infant study without any adverse events. That's the major requirement from ELSE, and from any other company that wants to launch an infant formula with a novel protein. So this study is about to begin in November, and hopefully the obstacle is that we need to get a comparator arm or a comparator formula for the study. And in the shortage situation now, it's very, very challenging to get a comparator arm. I mean, a comparator arm, it means a dairy arm that has to be fed at the same time that our research arm is being fed in ELSE. And this is what we're struggling with. Otherwise, we would have started a few months ago. So the control group, we hope it will be resolved very soon, because the shortage is starting to resolve. And this is what we're anticipating. So as we said, the conclusion of the infant growth study should be by the end of 2023. As for the question about how do the clinical studies position ELSE to supply samples and formula from birth and leaving hospitals, the study now, due to COVID, and if I interpret this question correctly, the studies now in hospitals are not possible. You have to do it at home. It's a new model that is accepted by FDA. We are in a very close connections or contact with them about any step we take, any protocol that we want to approve is definitely approved by them first, just to make sure that we are aligned with them. So we are making the study at home and with home visits of the healthcare providers. It's a different model, but it's a much faster recruitment. So I think we can complete it by the end of the next year.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Great. We're going to take one more question. And that is, so with respect to China and manufacturing, what is the plan for manufacturing when it comes to selling to the largest formula in terms of market share when it comes to China?
So I'm not sure you're aware, but we are selling our American products into the Chinese market. It is called Cross-Border China, and it's only online. So we cover about 15% of the Chinese market, which is sold through these platforms. We're talking about online stores that are our own stores and are serviced by Baozun. And so we have no issues about manufacturing in terms of we just take the products from the inventory and ship them to China. And as far as we grow in China, I think the other questions about our securing facilities and manufacturing sites, additional manufacturing sites, will support that growth.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Hamutal, and thank you, Soki. And thank you, everyone, for joining today's webinar. Today's webinar recording will soon be made available on ELSE Nutrition's website. And if you have any additional questions that you feel have not been addressed on this webinar, please feel free to email us at baby@rbmilestone.com. Again, that's baby@rbmilestone.com. Well, thanks everyone, and you are now free to disconnect.
Thank you.